So in terms of even just, hey, if we're looking on video, I do not look like what you may think when you think accountant. So I like to break the norm in terms of the perception of what accountants look like and are. So I always get that question when they say, what do you do? I'm a fractional CFO. What in the world does that mean, right? Those two accountants I just mentioned typically are rear view facing. They're looking in the past, what's already happened, right? Where have you spent your money? What income has already come in the door? At that point, you can't do much about it. It's important to know where we've been, where we are right now, right? A CFO is truly windshield. Where are we going? What are your goals? How do we get there? What are the steps we need to make the turns? So I am a CPA and I am a CFO. I do not touch tax. Okay. I try to stay away from. So CPA is very general. It can be a bookkeeper, it can be an accountant, it can be a tax preparer. You don't have to be a CPA though in order to do taxes.
I just want to say thank you to all the members of our community of the New Jersey Business Podcast. Thank you for the likes, the shares. Thank you for supporting this movement. I'm so happy to bring to you today the unconventional CFO, Lauren Furtado. She's doing a 3-part series, and it's so important. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, and you are perhaps concerned about your finances, if you're not happy with your current accountant, if you don't know where to start to get your books in order, you're going to get a ton of value from this series. Make sure you watch every single episode of it. What's shaking, New Jersey? Welcome to another episode of the New Jersey Business Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure to have with me Lauren Furtado, the unconventional CEO. Lauren, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to do this 3-part series, educating our community about accounting and about everything that they need to know in order to get their business in order in that front. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate being here. As a New Jersey business owner myself, I am truly passionate about bringing impact to business owners, and I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you, Lauren. Lauren, I would like to begin our time together with you sharing a little bit about yourself and your professional experience, so our audience knows the authority that you hold in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to break the norm in terms of the perception of what accountants look like and are. So in terms of even just, hey, if we're looking on video, I do not look like what you may think when you think accountant, right? You're thinking of a sweater vest behind a big wooden desk, as well as my approach in terms of being able to truly articulate what the impact of your financials mean to your business and your decisions and your goals. So yeah, I am a New Jersey mom of 2. I own, it's called Unconventional CFO Services. The way I made my path to entrepreneurship truly came through wanting to create impact. So I started my career in a public accounting firm, the largest in the world. I worked for 18 years reviewing financial statements as well as business processes of multi-billion-dollar Fortune 100 companies. I spent years seeing the ins and outs of how these big companies operated, and I really wanted to bring the expertise that I have gained through those years into the small business world, right? To people who really have skin in the game, to multi-generational family businesses, and be able to bring what I learned there and create impact, help families, help communities, and, be able to advise on the financial piece.
I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the passion that you bring into it. Certainly not what most people picture as a CPA or CFO. People have maybe a stereotype in mind, and I appreciate the level of energy and passion that you bring into it. I'd like to begin our time together by you explaining to our community what is a fractional CFO.
Yeah, so I always get that question when they say, what do you do? I'm a fractional CFO. What in the world does that mean, right? So in the world of business, I will say there are typically 2 types of accountants that you usually associate with. The first is the tax. So I need someone to prepare my taxes. I need someone to help me with tax strategy or planning, right? Making sure I'm compliant with the laws. So that's the first. The second is usually, I'll call it, and again, this can be 2 separate people, but the bookkeeper/accountant. And typically what their role is in your business is transactions that happen day to day, making sure you have the right bookkeeping, the right record keeping in order to review your financials. So reconciling even your bank account to your books at the end of the month, helping you with accounts payable, helping you with accounts receivable. So those are typically the role of kind of the bookkeeper / accountant. Then you have the CFO. And I always like to use the analogy of being in the car on a road trip. Those two accountants I just mentioned typically are rear view facing. So they're looking in the past, what's already happened, right? Where have you spent your money? What income has already come in the door? At that point, you can't do much about it, right? A CFO is truly windshield. Where are we going? What are your goals? How do we get there? What are the steps we need to make, the turns? It's important to know where we've been and where we are right now, right? We need that information in order to figure out what your numbers are trying to tell you about your behaviors and about the decisions you need to make in order to get to those goals you've set for your business.
Thank you. I appreciate you dividing that up. It's always confusing for people. So you have your CPA that will be generally dealing with things related to taxes. Is that correct?
So CPA, let me try and myth bust a little here. So I am a CPA and I am a CFO. I do not touch tax. Okay. I try to stay away from. So CPA truly is just a professional licensure. Okay. We have to take a certain amount of credit hours in college. We have to have certain work experience, and then we sit for an exam and we pass it, right? It's like the bar, or even think of a medical doctor. You have everybody passes the boards, but then you become specialized in neurosurgery or in chiropractics, right? So like you have to think of accountants in the same respect that is a professional licensure. I can go and do bookkeeping if I want to, right? So typically they niche down and focus on one specific thing. Mm-hmm. Now, a CPA can do all of those things, but I will say, in order for you to truly get good service, it's evaluating who has experience and where your need really is. Okay. So CPA is very general. It can be a bookkeeper. It can be an accountant. It can be a tax preparer. You don't have to be a CPA, though, in order to do taxes.
Or be a bookkeeper.
Or be a CFO.
Or be a CFO. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Okay.
Yes.
So for entrepreneurs who are starting out, who should they seek to help them in the accounting area?
I think it's truly evaluating what your needs are. So often, even in like Facebook groups local to New Jersey, they'll say, hey, I need a CPA. And I'm like, I'll even post and say, well, what exactly do you need, right? So I think it's determining what your need is and actually seeking that in terms of who can do that for me versus this is the box on the accountant that I need, right? So maybe it is bookkeeping and tax, right? That like, unfortunately, right, we all have to file our taxes. So like that is a necessary evil. And in terms of engaging someone, you at a minimum are going to need that. But maybe you need someone that has tax experience. Let's take a retail entrepreneur as an example that understands what sales tax requirements are across states. Because let's say you operate online, right? There are different requirements for different places. There's different tax implications depending on what states you have employees in as well, right? So I think you have to have an understanding as to what your business looks like, what you truly need, and then seek out those services.
Okay. So in conversation with entrepreneurs who are always starting out in the beginning, say their second year of business, and they're like, I don't know about sales tax. I don't know about doing my taxes. Would you suggest for someone who is in that stage, then to understand that they need, that it could potentially be one person who will be keeping their books straight, which will be a bookkeeper, and then another person who will be doing their taxes, not only at the end of the year, but also the quarterly reports for sales tax. Is that what they will be looking for?
Yeah, potentially, right? So, and to be honest, you can find firms that can offer multiple services. I have other CFO firm owners in my network that do bookkeeping, they do tax planning, they do it all, right? So it's maybe you want to go there. So it ultimately comes down to, your appetite to want to engage different professionals. But I think it's making sure you're very clear on what the deliverables are that you need. And for me personally, even in interviewing potential clients and doing onboarding, for me, the biggest thing is, are we the right match from just a CEO, CFO level perspective, right? So making sure it's someone that's going to communicate well, someone that is going to bring an element of feeling seen, if that makes sense, right? That like, okay, the situation is what it is. You're going to help me with my needs, because this, unfortunately, the world of finance can feel a little elusive to folks, right? It's one that you want to avoid sometimes. It's one that you want to hire somebody and say, okay, Paul, now I have signed you on, go deal with it. I don't have to, right? Like, we have not gone into business as a glorified hobby if we're not willing to look at our numbers, right? So I think it's being able to take ownership and accountability and engaging the right people to help you do that.
What do you find are the most common hurdles, like mindset hurdles, that business owners run into when thinking of accounting? Yep. And you could break it down into different levels, from like beginning entrepreneur or someone who already has a large business.
Yeah, I think it's intimidation is number one. And like, it pains me to have to actually even say that word, because I understand I've got 20 years experience. I've got, 5 years in college, a professional license, but like, this stuff doesn't have to be complicated. It's not easy, but it can be simple, right? So I think just level setting that it can be that, and like looking for someone and feeling empowered to find a professional that is going to help you feel the same way, that they're going to take the time to be able to explain what the financial concepts are to you so you understand the implications or the tax rules or whatever we're talking about, right? So I think it's intimidation of the unknown and like actually being able to admit you don't know, right? There's things in my business I don't know, right? Like I need help with, I need to engage someone to help me with. So I think it's just letting go of the ego and being able to admit, listen, I need help. Raise your hand, right? Even if it's taking a course, even if it's getting some freebies that might be available, because right, when you're operating at the very beginning and maybe you're a solopreneur, you may not have the cash flow to pay someone to help you, right? So it's understanding what resources may be out there available for you to get the basis, to get the understanding of the things that you need to do, because there is, a number of things when you first start that like are the bare minimum things you need to do. And we can kind of break out what those pieces are, but I think from a mindset, intimidation is one. And then I think embarrassment to an extent of the state of your financials, right? Like if I said, Paul, let me see your credit card bill right now, would you be like, oh God, I'm going to show you what I spent all my money on, or like a lack of money now at this point, right? Like I think there's an element sometimes of feeling like, oh crap, it should be in better condition than it is. And I'm so afraid to admit that. But I think once you get over that of, again, it is what it is at this point, accept it. You can only move forward and learn those lessons like I was talking about, the rear view, right? And be able to move forward if you understand where you've been. And it's, we call it kind of the financial nakedness, and being willing to kind of show that to somebody else feels uncomfortable. So it's finding someone you trust, right? Yeah. So the way to do that, to be able to feel intimate in your relationship with showing your financials to someone, truly is about building trust.
Going back to the foundational stuff, you mentioned mindset being something very important, several hurdles to overcome oftentimes. What are other early stage tips for entrepreneurs regarding the foundational stuff?
Yeah, so I'll break it out into a couple different categories. First is, and let me start this with, this is not professional individual advice. I am not an attorney, but the first thing I am going to talk about is some legal stuff, just to make sure you're protecting yourself and you're doing the right things. And really, I think of two big things, actually probably three. First is setting up an LLC, right? And that is not an accounting and a tax specific thing. That is to protect yourself if something goes wrong, right, with your business, on protecting your personal assets, right? So and I will tell you, I know the thought of that feels intimidating, even just saying, oh, set up an LLC. If I can do it, anyone can, because I had no experience doing that when I started my business. It does not take much time, and simple Google search will help you. And then you're filling out some forms online and it's very quick. So I don't want you to think, oh my God, I have to have all these attorney fees and have somebody do this for me. It is fairly easy to execute creating an LLC. That's one. Second, I would say, is insurance. We were just talking about this before we logged on, and I think it's making sure you have the right coverage, and making sure that you have, and I would say shop around, make sure you're getting good quotes from different vendors, and make sure you've got the right insurance. Kind of step number 2. Number 3, I would say any contracts that you have to have in place. Employee contracts, even something like rent. Let's say you have a storefront, right? Making sure you're having someone do cursory reviews on contracts before you sign anything is important. Those are the legal bucket. Next, let's talk banking. This one is big. Separate your transactions. Open a bank account that is separate. If you haven't done this yet, it is okay. Even if you're a year or 2 in, now is the time to do it. I use Relay Financial, and actually I think they're really great for entrepreneurs. They're very easy to use. And I would say, again, limited time it takes to do this. You will, and understood, if you're at the very beginning, you may need to infuse your business account, right, with your personal funds to be able to finance some spending, right? But I would say at a minimum, open a bank account, also a credit card under your business. It keeps all the transactions separate, because that LLC concept we talked about, it starts to get commingled, and then you run into an issue, right? Because you've got things happening in your personal account that relate to your business. Keep it separate. So that would be the banking information. I would say next is tax, right? Making sure that you are compliant with the rules. You do not want to pay interest and penalties and all that good stuff to the government if you do not have to, right? Let's make sure that you're setting money aside and that you understand what the tax requirements are depending on what your business is. Next is bookkeeping. You mentioned it before. So let's say 2 options, right? So first is you can do it yourself, right? If you've got a fairly simple business and not a ton of transactions that happen each period, it's not difficult to do on your own. And the money spent on something like QuickBooks Online is minimal. I think they have subscriptions that even start at like $12 a month, right? And you sync up your bank account that you already set up into the system. And it's going to even suggest, like, where should we categorize these transactions? Oh, you paid Facebook for an ad. Should this go to advertising? You review it, you confirm. It is very simple. So to the extent you are doing things on your own, or you've got a cousin that's helping you with bookkeeping, there are tools out there to be able to do it on your own, even if it's a spreadsheet, right? Like, it doesn't have to be something complicated. Keep a record of where you are, because again, it is hard to make decisions on what to do with your money, whether it's pull it out because you need it for your family, hire somebody, or spend it on marketing, unless you understand regularly where you are from an accounting perspective.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And breaking it down, I got to tell you, I've never heard anyone explain it so clearly, so simply, and put it in those different buckets. Makes total sense. I think oftentimes when, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, when there's something that we don't fully understand, it becomes a lot bigger than what it is. And then we are in real pain. And then we go and find somebody who doesn't bring clarity, but they agitate our pain. And then we're paying, and we still have that concern of like, I don't really know what's going on. Like, I don't know what's really happening, but that person takes care of it. So I appreciate you bringing so much clarity. I think our community, our audience can get a sense of the ton of value they would get working with someone such as yourself. So I appreciate it a lot. We're about to wrap up on this first part of this 3-part series. Yep. I know that you have some resources available. Can you share with our community the resource that you're so kindly going to share with them?
Yeah. So since we're talking tips on early stage entrepreneurs, I have a free checklist. It is a lot of the things I just mentioned, because I realize not everybody's got their notebooks out, scribbling it all down, right? It's a PDF, easy to download if you want to print it and like literally check them off. Have I done these things as an early stage entrepreneur? So if you go to my website, at the bottom of the homepage, it's free. You click it, it's there. So hoping that people will utilize that in order to get their business finances, that foundation that they need.
Yes, there you have it, folks. We're gonna make sure to place that link in our show notes and the notes of the description of our video. And so, thank you again. Thank you, Lauren. I really appreciate you, and look forward to the next part of this 3-part series.
Absolutely, me too. Hey, appreciate you listening to this episode of our 3-part series. If you are looking to work with a fractional CFO and you're a blue collar business who's making anywhere from $2 to $10 million in revenue, reach out to me. There's a form on my website. I really think I can add some value to growth-minded blue-collar businesses.
A big thank you to our show sponsor, Keep My Office Clean. Thank you so much for supporting this movement. And also a shout out to NMAS Co-working, located in Morristown, for allowing us to use this beautiful space. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the support.